All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Ward Radio live stream. I am your host, Cardon Ellis, and today I am joined via Zoom by an interesting group of scallywags, a rambunctious crew of none other than Ethan Fausett, who brought his crazy uncle along that makes, he's got his MAGA Mormon uncle that makes Thanksgiving dinners real awkward. You know what I'm saying? You want to introduce your friend, my man, Ethan?
Yeah, this is Lowell Taylor. He's put in a lot of work to study scriptures related to the second coming, figure out how what we're supposed to do about them. Because I mean, as it turns out, we are supposed to study those, and we are supposed to watch for the times. And I think he does a great job of showing the kind of effort that we can put into that. And so far, it's been kind of interesting with some of the recent events happening. It has me kind of scratching my head because they kind of go along really well with a lot of his theories. So.
Yeah, you may recognize him as Lowell Taylor. I recognize him as the ridiculously handsome generic face you see in picture frames at Sam's Club
Oh yeah.
whenever they're trying to offload at
Yeah.
Michael's on the, on the 50-year-old women that like scrapbooking. You're like every Mormon widow's dream, my man, right there. And then part matinee idol, part scriptorian. And then who's the neo-Nazi next to you? Oh no, that's Jason. Oh, okay, sorry. I thought you brought one of your work furlough friends from prison with you. Jason, good to have you back, my man. How you doing?
I'm just a balding Jew. What can I say?
Just a balding Jew. That's funny. All right, sweet. So, truth be told, we actually had this live stream on the books for how long now, Ethan?
Sorry, what was that? I missed the last thing you said there.
Oh,
I
I
was
said
checking the audio on the stream.
I said, truth be told, we've actually had this live stream on the books for what, like 2 weeks now, right?
Oh, at least yeah, because I first met Lowell at the Firm Foundation, and he showed me a lot of his stuff there, and I was like, okay, this is really interesting, and it could, obviously it could make for some really interesting content online. But beyond that, I think it's important that we study this stuff, and and so I was like, yeah, let's talk about it. Let's see what we could do. So I looked into his stuff further. I was like, this is really interesting. I'm finding myself intrigued, and I think that there's a lot of the Word Radio audience that would love to hear about it as well. And so I've been talking to Cardon about it, been talking to Lowell about it, just been trying to get this scheduled. Uh, I got busy with a bunch of stuff, but we're finally here. 'Cause I think
And
we've been waiting on this for like over a month at this point. No, since April.
no, so
Since
we've
April is
wanted
when I
to
first.
talk the book of
Yeah.
Daniel and fulfillment of like end time scripture in the Trump administration for like, yeah, maybe at least a month. And then the day that we finally get it on the books and the day comes of the live stream, and what happens, my man? What just got announced today? Jason, you just sent me a screenshot. What just happened today, my man?
Yeah, so the Israel Defense Forces just began conducting preemptive strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities. I'm also getting reports on senior Iranian military leaders. So of course I'm not speaking on behalf of the United States government or on behalf of the church, but I think this is a significant development. It's historic. There hasn't been something like this really since the 1967 war. I think we're on the precipice of the Middle East really changing in a dramatic way over the next few weeks, in my opinion.
But the Arab Spring. So, okay, wow, holy smoke. So
Yeah.
it's getting pretty hot. Okay, so then Ethan, you're one of the Ward Radio News guys. Give us the bird's eye view of what's going on. Ask Jason for some insights, because he did everything from study. Come on, tell us your background with the
Yeah.
Middle East, man.
Yeah. So, well, full time, I'm a military guy, but I also completed a PhD in Near Eastern and Judaic Studies at Brandeis University, which is it's the leading Jewish university in the United States in Boston. I studied primarily did Israeli studies, so I'm maybe count on your fingers church members, members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints with PhDs in modern Israeli studies. I did have a background in biblical studies as well, and super interested in that. And Cardon and I have talked a lot about that, archaeology and such. But I studied the Arab-Israeli conflict, and really ever since the Oslo Accords, we've had an Iranian-Israeli conflict, and that's really what we're in now. The Arab states, they're not looking to wage war on Israel. You see the Saudi Arabia is on the cusp of wanting to join the Abraham Accords. Other Arab states have joined the Abraham Accords. The Arab states are wanting to make peace with Israel, but Iran is the one major holdout. This entire war since October 7th has really been Iran versus Israel. A lot of people can't see that. They get hyper focused on Gaza, and Gaza is tragic. My heart goes out to all the innocent people that are suffering in Gaza because of Hamas. However, the reality is, the strategic reality, the geographic reality is that Iran is the instigator in this war. It's been Iran that armed and trained and funded Hamas. Hamas is just a proxy for Iran in Gaza. There's been Hezbollah in Lebanon. There's been the Houthis in Yemen. There's been some other militias and whatnot in Iraq. But it's really Iran, which is this revolutionary state ever since 1979, when one of the clerics, the Ayatollah Khomeini, came to power. He was one of the clergy. It was a theocratic revolution, and in that worldview, their particular religious view, the Iranians have got to, at least at that level, at the clerical level, the Ayatollah level, they feel compelled to destroy Israel, to wipe Israel off the face of the map. They see it as a cancer. It's disallowed for the Jewish people to have sovereignty, to have their own country, to have a state. There's got to be a religious a Shiite empire over the land, and so that's why Iran has been so focused on developing nuclear weapons. Tonight, it's gotten to the point, apparently, that Iran was on the verge of breakout, and Israel could not wait any longer. It's in my judgment, it's an Iranian nuclear weapon is absolutely an existential threat to Israel. Israel's a very small country, the size of New Jersey. One or two nuclear weapons fired upon Israel, and Israel's gone. It ceases to exist. As Latter-day Saints, right? That we could talk about doctrine and scripture, right? That's something that I think theologically, a lot of Christians, Latter-day Saints, but other Christians as well, cannot let that happen, because that would be the destruction of the major portion of the Jewish people, the scattering or the re-exile, another exile of the Jewish people. That's really I see that's what the Iranians' intent is. They're either want to kill or drive out the Jews from their land. I don't even need to get into all the apocalyptic stuff or the second coming stuff. I mean, we can discuss different doctrines about that, but
lame.
That's the fun stuff right there.
Dude,
the
bro.
fun stuff.
This is the doom and gloom stuff. I want the fun stuff
Dog.
that feels like it's in the future and doesn't directly impact me right now.
This isn't Fox News, man. This isn't Fox News. This is like Alex Jones mixed with George Norrie mixed with Carrot Top,
Who the heck is
bro.
George Norrie?
Who the heck is George Norrie? Older gentleman, please. Older gentleman.
Okay, so someone from your
Lowell
generation.
Lowell Taylor. I have a feeling you know who George Norrie is. Explain to our little
coast.
Yeah, explain to our young friend here who George Norrie is, man.
Is that Coast to Coast AM guy?
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby.
Yeah. What did he? Oh, right. It was him and that one other guy that did like the conspiracy radio stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Dude, I
I
grew up
actually
as like a kid listening to George Norrie, and people like truckers that I'm pretty sure were high on their third night of methamphetamines in order to get that cross country load delivered from San Pedro Harbor all the way to like New Jersey. They'd call in and be like, "I'm telling you, George, I'm telling you, I saw the hands. They were coming out. They were on my. There was a UFO that was following me in between Detroit and in between Detroit and Philly. They followed me the whole way there, and it was like, it was pretty awesome. Now, he had some good revolutionary stuff, but also other times he'd just be like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I just listened to a crazy person. So airwaves, we're looking to fill content between 10 and 2 in the morning. And let me tell you, when it gets closing time on the East Coast, you start getting really weird calls on the West Coast. So anyway, it was good stuff. It was good stuff. So
It really was.
so if I understand you correctly, Jason, you're saying, all right, Gaza, we don't want to say it's a sideshow, but it's been a proxy war, maybe that's a better
Yeah.
term, for
Proxy
an
war.
Iran v. Israel beef that's been existing since the 70s when this guy, the Ayatollah, took over. And you're saying he's basically they're Brigham Young, but instead of giving women the right to vote and improving society and building an empire of the West, you're saying he's a baddie on steroids and definitely has an axe to grind with Israel that's sharp enough he'd be willing to just cut them all down with a nuclear weapon. This is
he'd
a
be the
preempt.
next Hitler if he could. Easily.
Oh, now is that like woke Hitler, where like you sneezed and that person remembers you sneezing when you were a kid, and when he turned gay, he just had all of a sudden repressed memories of you sneezing on him as an act of
No, unlike
microaggressions?
communists, I actually
That's-
use Hitler to mean Hitler.
Oh, so like actual Hitler.
Actual Holocaust Hitler.
Okay, so
is
not like
yes.
my PE teacher made me run laps as a punishment in junior high and I was thus human trafficked. Not that version.
No.
Oh, okay, cool.
Unless you're talking like running through the gas chambers, then yes.
Oh, jeez.
Because that's what it was, right? Like
Well, actually, yeah. If you've been there, it's actually quite one of the most humbling things you'll ever do is go to
Yeah.
Dachau. It's sad, but
one of the most life-changing books I've ever read was Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. If anybody hasn't, they should read it. Like, the stuff was horrible, but like you need to understand that because there are people out there today that want to do that exact same thing to this generation of Jews in our time if they could, and we can't let them do
My
that.
ancestors were there too, bro. This is weird, but
That's
it's like
right. Yeah, the Polish ancestors.
3 of my 5 great aunts and uncles were, if not literally worked to death in labor camps by the Nazis. They were sent to, they were liberated. Ironically, the Soviets liberated them into work camps in Siberia, like utterly worked to death. And so, it's wild being a millennial, like just seeing how like the sun like sets and rises, over you. It like starts over there and starts over here. It's like we've gone from like just seeing like, okay, on this side of me, I have generations that actually fought it. And then now like we've got like flat earthers and Holocaust denial. Like it's all like happened like a sun sets all within just like one generation. It's crazy. So anyway, yeah, dude. So this is some serious stuff, but it's ironic that we actually had this fun broadcast planned where we were going to talk with Lowell, like how he literally thinks, hey, if you pay attention to scripture, some of this we should have seen coming, and we're going to have a little bit of fun reading the book of Daniel. Or maybe it's not going to be so fun. Maybe it's going to be like a somber tone.
Yeah, well, exactly. 'Cause the last
like-
couple of weeks, I've been like, all right, I'm getting ready for this live stream. And then I see this news article, and I text it to Lowell, and I'm like, hey, this is kind of interesting, isn't it? And I see another one, I'm like, oh. And then prepping for this live stream, I was watching some old legacy news stuff because, I want to be all official and such. And CBS was talking about how Iran, they have a rather large amount of almost nuclear grade uranium. And they were saying that with the amount that they have, it is feasible that if allowed to do so, within a couple of weeks, they could have a nuclear warhead ready to go. And if, correct me if I'm wrong, I heard in one of those. So if I get this wrong, this is CBS News' fault. But they were saying that Iran also has the largest stockpile of ballistic missiles in the Middle East. So it's not like they're short on those. They've got plenty of those. They just need the warhead. And it sounds like give them 2 or 3 weeks and they could have it. And so this is serious stuff. And as it turns out, if we turn to scripture, we might be able to get a sense of how this is going to go down and what we need to do about it.
All right, Lowell. So break your face out of the picture frame at Walmart. Break your face out of the picture frame at Walmart and just tell us what you think, man. What you had to say piqued the interest of Ethan enough that he called me up and say, "Hey, I got a guy for a live stream." So it piqued the interest of me. I want to hear what you got to say, man. Hit it.
Okay, so I want to really just come out of the box and want to empower people for them to know for themselves where we are in the prophetic events. Now, Ethan, you've been checking over the information, and I bet that you could explain it to others.
Maybe a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
I need to go through a lot of these scriptures myself, and I actually have been, because after hearing your explanations, like, man, maybe I should go read through this myself too. So spending some Sunday afternoon studying this stuff, and yeah,
because it just fits, doesn't it? And so oftentimes when you hear people talk about the prophetic events of the last days, it's gloom and doom. And I am here to tell you, guys, we have such an amazing, bright, fabulous, uplifting future. And depending on how far we get into it today, we'll get to some of those.
What are you talking about, bro? I read the book of Revelation. These freaking crazy. Oh yeah, it's gonna be a freaking walk in the park. As there's like, have you ever read the vision that Wilford Woodruff had of the last days, where like there would be gases so noxious that people can't even walk out their front doors without gasping for air, and like there's parents eating their children, and then like neighbors stabbing each other in the back. Bro, come on. What are you talking about? We got this bright future. It's called Mag and Agag or Blog or Magog and whatever that. Armageddon, damn it. You know, that's it.
Like, those are two separate things, but yes.
So let's go ahead and jump into it. Let me get a good slide over here to get.
We can jump into the scary stuff so that we can figure out how we can actually have some peace from it. Because you have to be willing to go through the scary stuff before you can figure out the good on the other side. That's kind of how this stuff works.
Okay, so scare me to death first so I can recover with the happy scriptures.
You like horror movies, right?
I wouldn't say well, it depends on the horror. If it's cerebral, intelligent thriller horror, I'm all down. If it's guys like Jason down here running around with knives and stabbing people, you know, then it freaks me out.
That's cheap.
You know?
It's,
So I'm not into like slashers, but I'm into like The Sixth Sense. I'm into creature features. Definitely a creature feature fan. That's all horror. It's a very wide and broad subject.
Well, there you go.
So
this is the scriptures version of that, except the whole point is to bring us closer to Christ.
Yeah.
In this case, like in the end, it will literally be with him. But
okay, so hit me with your parallels, bro. Come on, I want to see this.
Should we dive into it?
I've got scripture notes right here on my screen in front of me, and I want my face to be peeled off and melted with the revelation and insight that you're about to give me. I want to feel like, Jack Black blasting on parlantes. How do you say that? On speakers that go to 11. Some like super sick headbanging rock and roll. So I'm like the guy in Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Just melt my face right now with scripture, dog.
Now, can I just set it up a little bit here?
Yeah,
Let
sure,
me
go
do
for
this.
it. Yeah.
So back in 1979, I had my patriarchal blessing, and in it it said, "Great wisdom and understanding will be yours, and you will make a great contribution in preparing the earth for the return of the Savior."
Cool.
Now, as time has gone on, and God has showed me these really cool connections in the scriptures, I found that is just not me that's going to make that great contribution. As I share it with other people, and they share it, and they share it, we all get to contribute in making this great contribution. So this is really cool. Now, the other thing is that in 75, I had another special, or 85, I had another special experience where I ended up going on a journey to tenaciously keep the first great commandment first, and that was in 85, and excuse me, 95. That was in 95, and then in 98, I had another special experience where God invited me to go on a journey with Him to understand the general order the prophetic events would play out. But He said, don't go to the commentaries. And I thought, well, how am I going to do this? And He said, read the scriptures. And so I went on that journey. And
okay, I'm going to pause for 1 second.
Yeah.
1, my face isn't melting. So get me the good stuff. 2, this sounds like you're about to announce that you're starting your own break-off ministry of Mormonism and are going to form a different branch of the church. Which one is it? Because if it is and it's a doomsday cult, I'm joining.
No, I have no desire to be any type of big leader or anything else like that. But I do want to get this message out.
Cool, hit it.
And other people can get the message out. And so that was in 98, and in the year 2000, God showed me why so many people have been saying this Bible sign is happening or that Bible sign is going to happen, but as time goes on, they're typically wrong. And so not only did He show me why, but He also showed me a more correct interpretation about a chapter, a few chapters, a lot of chapters, that what they say is correct. Joseph Smith, in Joseph Smith translation, he didn't go in there and change these up. They are what they are. But Josephus around 180, or St. Jerome around 480, somebody got us down the wrong rabbit hole with this. And that's why we haven't been able to get it right very much.
And this gets into the book of Daniel, right? Because this is one of the big problems with the book of Daniel, is because Christianity at large, they interpret a lot of the prophecy in the book of Daniel as having happened in the past. But we're the only church where our chapter heading says, no, this is the last days. This is last days scripture. So we need to understand it that way and actually go take a look at it and see what it says.
Oh, yes. Yep. And where we're going to begin is, do you want to share my screen? Do you have that?
Oh,
See,
sure.
I think if you want to share your screen, you have to click the share screen button.
Okay.
Or did you
right
request it?
There we go.
There.
Okay, show us, bro. Show us.
All right.
But make it fun, bro. Make it fun, man. This isn't fair.
This.
No, I'm just kidding.
Revelation chapter 17, the angel giving John the interpretation of the beast that has 7 heads and 10 horns, and it has that woman riding on that beast. Well, look at what the interpretation is from the angel. Can someone read verses 10 and 11?
Okay, hit it.
Let's see. Do you
Go,
want me
Ethan.
to do that?
No, go, Ethan,
All
bro.
right.
That's you.
All righty. Wait, there we go. It says, and there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And the beast that was, and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition.
Okay, so What do you read there?
I don't know, but I think there's kings,
Yep.
um, and and uh, and I'm guessing this is leading up to the second coming.
Hey, Jason, you were like a Jewish apologist back in the day, bro. What's kind of like the mainstream interpretation of this, man?
Well, well, first of all, Book of Revelation wouldn't
Well, I mean,
be.
it's the New Testament, but I'm saying like
Yeah, yeah.
you kind of
But
got into Mormonism by trying to debunk it.
I
So
did.
like
Yes.
what's the traditional, yeah, I shouldn't say traditional interpretation. I should say the traditional challenge to this.
Yeah. So this is all building off of ancient patterns of the nation and the empire, right? So these seven kings, these are really major emperors trying to build a global, dominion. And we saw that in the ancient times. You had Egypt, you had Babylonia, you had Assyria, you had the Romans, the Hellenistic Empire under Alexander the Great. So obviously, there's these patterns are going to recur in the future. Uh, Movements trying to reestablish a kind of an empire. Obviously, the land of Israel, the Jewish people have something to do with that, which they always have. And so that's what these seven. If we're trying to understand what's going on today, it's who are some world leaders that are trying to build global empires, global dominions, trying to conquer others. Um, Especially it's going to be pointed at Israel, right? That's kind of the apple of the Lord's eye, as the scriptures call them. That's how I think we could set it up in
So
a
we're
simple
not
way.
just talking like, okay, so you're saying that the prophecies have to repeat themselves. So like
Yes.
at first we had, Assyria, Babylon, Roma, and so on and so forth, those seven kingdoms. Now we've had like, for example, I mean, modern empires, you've had Elvis, you've had the Beatles, the British invasion, you've had everything from Taylor Swift and Linkin Park to Queen. And so what are you saying? Like K-pop is the final boss? You know what I'm saying? And we're all gonna.
Right. The
K-pop is
final
what leads
boss.
us into Armageddon.
Okay, so Lowell, tell us more about how K-pop is going to lead us into Armageddon. Lowell, hit it, bro.
So pay attention to verse 10. The seventh king in verse 10 continues a short space. And then the eighth king represents the whole image of the beast. And that eighth king is the one that gets the power, seat, and authority of Satan and goes to fight against Christ when Christ returns in power and glory. So then we'll look at this here. In Daniel chapter 11, let's go ahead and read verses 20 and 21. I'll do that. Then shall stand up in his estate a raiser of taxes in the glory of the kingdom. But within few days he shall be destroyed, neither in anger nor in battle. And in his estate shall stand up a vile person, to whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom, but he shall come in peaceably and obtain the kingdom by flatteries. And then verse 45 says, and he shall plant the tabernacle of his palace between the seas, in the glorious holy mountain. Yet he shall come to his end, and none shall help him.
Let me guess, you're a rabid never Trumper that thinks Trump is the vile person because he raised the taxes on the millionaire tax and hashtag Mitt Romney 2028. Is that what you're saying or what?
Oh my gosh, that's a good one, but no, nope, nope, not there.
So who is this about then?
Yeah, I'd like to know. But what we do see is that, um, you take a look at verse 20, it's talking about this individual who is destroyed after a few days. In Revelation chapter 17, it talked about the seventh king
Oh,
continues a short space. Few days, short space.
okay. So there's a connection here where both of these are last days prophecy. And a lot of times I have noticed this with a lot of the last days prophecy. And this kind of follows a pattern that you see with Nephi, where Nephi gets to a point and then he's told, like, but I'm not allowed to like show you any of this. Like the rest of this is for John to share. And so it seems like God is delegated to different prophets, different sections of prophecy to share. And so like but like sometimes they kind of hint at each other. And so in this case, it seems like maybe John was kind of hinting back to Daniel.
Exactly. Because when you break down Daniel chapter 11, look at this. It talks about, Daniel chapter 11 talks about a lot of kings, but within the many kings is a succession of 8 kings. Now, this gets really fascinating because with Revelation chapter 17, verses 10 and 11, that's 2 verses. But Daniel chapter 11 is 45 verses long. And verse 1 is by an angel. And the rest of the chapter is that angel spilling the beans of what's going to happen in chronological order, all the way leading up to the return of Christ in power and glory. So over here on this slide over here, we just talk about how this is so huge because it's the foundational chapter out of all the chapters and sections that we have to date. Daniel chapter 11 is the foundational chapter for organizing the prophetic events in general order.
And you would say that's because it lays it out in a sort of step-by-step pattern. So theoretically, if you can find where you're at in Daniel 11, or just in Daniel in general, then you should be able to kind of track me like, oh, okay. And then you've got like a little eye around the corner, not knowing exactly what's going to happen, but like you then you can have like a hint at what's going to happen.
Also, what verses we talking about here? I got scripture notes up on the screen. I want to make sure that I show everybody the verses properly.
Yeah, so well, it's the whole chapter. So what we're going to
Okay.
do is look at this here. We'll get to
So you'll want to open up Daniel chapter 11, okay, Cardon?
Daniel chapter 11.
Yeah, I got it right here. Daniel chapter 11. Blow my mind. My face has got to melt off. Hit me.
All right. So if we're anywhere close to the return of Christ in power and glory, we're somewhere between verse 2 and verse 45.
Okay.
Where are we in
Oh, yeah.
Daniel chapter 11? So
Let's start. We should get into verse 2 because verse 2, I think, is where we start to really start to get into that sort of mind-blowing stuff that
oh
Cardon wants
yeah,
to see.
yeah. But like you mentioned, look at this heading in Daniel chapter 11.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Daniel sees the successive kings and their wars, leagues, and conflicts that lead up to the second coming of Christ.
Okay.
There's always a prophetic person and or event all along the way, all the way up to the return of Christ in power and glory. So now we'll get over here and let's get right into the first couple of verses.
Okay. Hit me.
Okay, so Daniel chapter 11, verse 1, it says, also I, that's the angel talking to Daniel, in the first year of Darius the Mede, even I stood to confirm and to strengthen him. And now I will shew thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia, and the fourth shall be far richer than they all. And by his strength, through his riches, he shall stir up all against the realm of Grecia.
Okay.
Now, go ahead,
So-
Ethan.
So there's a few things here, and I think I can kind of summarize. There's a little bit of stuff on the slide here, but if you look at Iran, there was 3 kings essentially before the Ayatollah Khamenei, and right here you can see that we actually have estimated net worth of each of them, and then the current leader of Iran is like his net worth estimates are ridiculous. Like, so yeah, like some people put him at around $250 billion, way wealthier than any of the guys before him. And then beyond that, what really kind of like seals the deal for me is like, oh, okay, this could be a pretty accurate interpretation here, is when you get over to it says that the fourth shall be richer than they all, and by his strength, through his riches, he shall stir up all against the realm of Grecia. And so you kind of have to ask yourself, in this context of this verse, in this chapter, we're talking about the last days, what country would be represented by Grecia or Greece?
Yeah, I just looked it up, and it says that Grecia is the Italian, Spanish, and Portuguese word for Greece.
Yeah. And so what would you say Greece is? Like, I mean, I can just tell you what I think. Do you want that?
We're Americans. Who cares what happens to Greece? No, I'm just kidding.
Because that's us.
What? So we're
So-
Greeks now? What?
So Greece at that time was the West, right? And it was the center of the West. It was the center of Western culture, of Western civilization, of Western philosophy. Everything that is the West has stemmed from Greece. And if you consider, okay, Daniel's having this vision, if he were to have a vision of Washington D.C., what would he see? Well, he would see a bunch of buildings. He would see like right there. He would see all these different buildings and symbols that, as it turns out, find their way back to Greece. And so if Daniel sees America and the parts of America that are capital and that symbolize America, I'd be like, oh, this is Greece, right? And so America is really the capital of the West, or as Daniel would have put it, Greece. And so when you think about what the Ayatollah has been doing, what does he say Israel is? He says Israel's the little Satan, right? Well,
Okay.
who's America?
The Greeks.
America's the great Satan. Yeah.
Exactly. And so in this case, if we say, okay, this verse is talking about the Ayatollah, then we're saying that the Ayatollah was far richer than any of the leaders of Iran that came before him, and he's using his riches and his strength to try to stir up as much hatred and vitriol against the realm of Grecia, or you could say the West, or in this case, Israel and the United States.
Okay, now how much of that is just main character syndrome? You know, like just us flattering ourselves that, oh, well, if he's talking about the big and the wealthy and the powerful and the awesomest, then how the mighty have fallen. Well, I'm mighty.
Well, who else could it be?
Maybe a future empire, because maybe Jesus isn't going to come for 1,000 years. Like, I've kind of always been of the rule of thumb that when you read all of the prophecies, just like even James E. Talmage said this in Jesus the Christ, which is in our secondary canon of the missionary library. He said those that think the second coming is like right around the corner basically need to chill out, because if all the prophecies are true, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints will be the last institution that teaches love for your fellow man. Everybody else will be operating out of sheer selfishness, and that will create such political ugliness, social ugliness, plagues, famines. Like, the world is still, despite all of our problems, so good in general. You know, you get a flat tire, somebody will pull over and help you. You know, you fall on hard economic times. They suck and they're not very, efficient, but there's charity out there. Like, people have still just such a base level of good. I don't view us as anywhere close to fulfilling these books of Revelation. And I think some of these prophecies are further in the future than we'd like to admit.
Okay, so
but what if
what it reminds me of, Cardon, is remember that example that I used it when I was on a mission, and you put a nail on one end of the board, and how many ways can you turn that board? All the way around.
Okay.
So now what we're going to do is we're going to put another nail on the other end of the board.
Okay.
And we're going to nail this down right now.
And then are you going to tell us how we can buy in at the lowest level? No, I just totally kidding. I'm totally kidding with you. All right,
okay.
Hit it, man. Hit it.
Okay, so
I will say though, Cardon,
Uh-huh.
I've been listening to President Nelson's talks.
Oh.
And the second coming's brought up a lot.
Dude, and when he looks down the camera and ambiguously says, "Time is running out," it's like, whoa.
And what was it that you just said a minute ago too? You were saying like the very first thing you were saying, well, it's not like this is happening. It's not like this is happening. And I'm just kind of like tilting my head up and be like, Cardon, all of those things are happening.
You know,
Yes, there's still good people in the world. That's not going to change. But there have been plagues. There's wars and rumors of wars. I've actually spoken with people who have been like at state conferences and stuff where people have relayed what President Nelson's telling the general authorities. And what he's telling them is that there are two, let's see if I can get this right. Two more things need to happen before the second coming. First, we've got to sufficiently gather Israel, sufficiently, and second, Jesus needs to come back. That's apparently all that President Nelson says is left to do. So we're close.
Now, by the way,
what close means, I actually, from what I've talked to Lowell, I think the second coming is going to happen sooner than Lowell says.
Yeah, so some days I wake up and I'm a 2035 guy. Like some days I wake up and I'm like, oh man, it's happening, baby. It's happening. Other times I'm like a 30-35 guy. You know, so I don't know. We'll find out. We'll find out. I know I think I know where Lowell stands on this one. But just a reminder, everybody make sure you like the stream. Also, if you have any questions or any challenges to what Lowell has to say, what Jason has to say, what our boy Ethan has to say, please, as long as they are germane to the conversation, send us a super chat and we'll do our best to read them on screen. Or if you're just a woman in her 40s or 50s that has a crush on Lowell, please send us a $20 super chat and we will read your little love note to him on screen. And I'm sure he will be very flattered. And he might even take out his comb and put his hair back once just for you. You know what I'm saying?
A wave.
The wave. He'll do the wave for you. So, all right, Lowell, keep going, bro. Hit us.
Okay. So let's find out what this fourth king, what happens to him.
Okay.
So let's have someone read verses 3 and 4.
I gotcha. So it says, and a mighty king, or in other words, the fourth king, shall stand up, that shall rule with great dominion and do according to his will. And when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken, and he shall be divided toward the four winds of heaven, and not to his posterity, nor according to his dominion which he ruled. For his kingdom shall be plucked up even for others beside those. So we're saying, or at least Lowell is predicting, that Iran will be destroyed and split up between the neighboring Middle Eastern countries. Is that what you're saying?
Yep. In essence, that's where I'm seeing. Okay.
Okay. Whoa. Okay. Now hold on. Is this a mainstream interpretation that's percolated?
No.
A resurrection of a doomsday interpretation from the 70s that fell out of favor? What? So is this just you, Lowell? What are you thinking?
Yeah. So there's scriptures in Daniel chapter 11 and 8 that when it talks about so when Kamini is gone, then there comes up a kingdom of the north and a kingdom of the south. But it's not just Iran that goes away. We're going to read that in Daniel chapter 8. And so when you read Daniel chapter 8 and you understand that Turkey's involved in this, and I'm really looking forward to getting Jason's input on this. But the other thing that I want you to remember is in Isaiah chapter 48, in essence, it talks about how God reveals things before they happen so that we can't say, oh yeah, we knew that. So many of these things are like, what? And we're going to get into that. So I want to get into that right now.
Okay, hit it. Go for it.
Okay, so Daniel chapter 8 also talks about a war between Persia and Grecia. And Jason, for our audience, who's Persia today?
Yeah, so no, this is really the patterns of the region, both from ancient to modern times, right? So there was a Persian empire in the past, Zerubbabel and Darius the Great, all these Cyrus, the great Cyrus, who was the Persian emperor. in these ancient times who actually permitted the Jewish people to return to Jerusalem and rebuild their temple. So it's like the flip of what the current Persia. So these are an ancient, amazing people. Zoroastrianism was born in Persia, ancient Persia. Of course, once the Islam was born and it spread, uh, many of the people of Persia embraced Shiite Islam. So Shiite Islam is distinct from Sunni Islam. And very, very briefly, right, Sunni Islam focuses on the Prophet Muhammad and his companions, called the Sahib. They are Sunni Muslims are trying to emulate these the Prophet Muhammad and his companions primarily, their sunnah or their way of life. But the Shiites actually have a kind of a dynastic idea. They believe that there has to be imams after the Prophet Muhammad, and so what Shia really stands for is Shiat Ali, which the party of Ali. So Ali was, I think it was Prophet Muhammad's nephew, um, and so what happened is he really took on. He was also the fourth caliph, but he became the central figure for Shiite Islam, and then those descendants through through Muhammad. Let's see, I believe it was Ali is married um, to the Prophet Muhammad's daughter, and so those descendants are like the pure dynastic descendants of the Prophet Muhammad. And so the Shiite Islam, they're going to follow these dynastic descendants of Muhammad, all the way up to what's called the 12th Imam, and the 12th in line after Muhammad. So you can imagine, I mean, there's a similar tradition in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or the world of Mormonism, so to speak, with the literal descendants of Joseph Smith, right? This kind of idea, it has to be the bloodline. But the 12th Imam went into occultation, and so many of the Shiite Muslims, especially those in Iran, are waiting for this 12th Imam to return. They call him the Mahdi. He's a kind of a messianic figure.
Oh, the
And so,
Mahdi. Yeah, we met him in like a live stream. Like, yeah,
yeah.
dude. Like, no, just like what was it? Like last week we recorded the what's it called? The Mahdi. What's his name?
Oh,
Yeah.
that guy.
The Ahmadi Religion of Peace and Light. Or
Oh, well, no, this is,
dude,
yeah,
they
that's
reached out to us. By the way, did you know that, Ethan and Jason?
Ahmadiyya.
I
Yeah.
think I saw something about that in the group text. Yeah.
Dude, yeah, a bunch of followers of the Mahdi. You know what I'm saying? Just said, hey, thanks for like being the only people that haven't been cruel to us this week. You know what I'm saying?
There is a branch of Islam called Ahmadiyya. The Mahdi is a separate guy. He's like a Muhammad. He's like a descendant of Muhammad.
Yeah, the Arab
He's
Shane
a-
Baldwin.
Uh,
Get up.
we can look it up. The point,
Yeah.
the bottom line is there's a lot of really fervent religious Iranians that they believe that in order for their Messiah to come back, the 12th Imam of Shia Islam, they have to destroy Israel. So that's what's driving all of this, is actually this apocalyptic belief. Until Israel's destroyed, they can't have their Shiite Islam messianic age. And so even right now we're discussing like these conflicting apocalyptic points of view. Of course, in our worldview, right, we want the Jewish people to remain in their land because and not be driven out or killed, because we have a biblical worldview. And, we're kind of basing our faith off of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob traditions. Of course, King David is the lineage that we look to, not Muhammad uh, and his lineage for messianic power, messianic kingship. We're looking for the son of David, right? Not the son of Muhammad. But this is kind of what's going on behind the scenes, I think, and driving what's happening, how Iran has transformed from this ancient Persian Empire.
Okay. So then tying it into this, what we see is that over here on the screen on the right, you see that there's the first four kings under Daniel chapter 11. And the first king is Pahlavi, who started to rule in 1925, and then his son, and then Khomeini was 79 to 89, and then Khomeini is from 89 to now. Okay,
Okay.
and so so the first Pahlavi, who started to rule in 1925, um, in 1935, that's when he or Persia changed the name from Persia to Iran. Okay, back to Iran, actually, I heard. So, with that being said, then what we're looking at is we're going to get to Daniel chapter 11 and Daniel chapter 8. In verse 1 and 2 is just an intro. Let's go ahead and jump into the meat of it. We're going to start with verse 3, and uh, and then verse 20 is the angel giving the interpretation to Daniel of what this imagery means. So, can someone read that?
Okay, hit it. Ethan, he's yours. Go.
All right, I got it. Then I lifted up mine eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had two horns, and it says, and the two horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last. The ram which thou sawest having two horns are the kings of Media and Persia.
Okay, so now back around the year 2000, well, I'll just say 2000, when I first made the connection about the succession of eight kings and then about this war between Grecia and then Persia, and I was able to go, okay, that's Grecia is the United States, Persia is Iran, and Khomeini, he's been in power since '89, and he hadn't become higher than anyone in particular. That ties in with the succession of our king. So it all boiled down to I knew I was waiting, I was looking for another king from a Medea area to fit in with the horn that becomes higher than Khomeini. And so this is from like the year 2000, and year after year it goes on and on and on and on, and then around 2015, 2016, President Erdogan of Turkey starts to get on my radar screen because Ethan, how you were talking about the Hitler, and everything. That's how I looked at what was going on with Erdogan over in Turkey. Now remember that back he began to be president like August of 2014, and remember that was when ISIS was going on, and the U.S. was fighting ISIS. Turkey was fighting ISIS. Iran was fighting ISIS, and so you had all this battle going on. And so I really started to pay attention to him, going, man, maybe in the future he becomes higher than Khomeini, but Khomeini was worth a lot of money. And then, so as I looked into Turkey, using this ancient map, I could see that Turkey was up in the upper left corner of the ancient Medea area. And I go, okay, all right. So Erdogan, he that that could fit, but can he become higher than Khomeini? Well, in July 15th, 2016, it was a Friday. I was walking out to my truck, and in the morning, and the news came on about a coup attempt on Erdogan, and I go, oh my gosh, I thought that he might become higher than Khomeini, and I just shook my head and laughed. And well, the next day, Saturday, he had still had control, and then on Sunday, July 17th, 2016, Erdogan fulfilled Bible prophecy, Daniel chapter 8, verse 3. Look at this. Look at this website here. Muslim scholars worldwide declare Erdogan to be the supreme leader for the entire Muslim world.
Yeah, but the Mahdi just did the same thing on YouTube like 6 weeks ago.
You can't declare yourself though. This is interesting though. Like, were there Muslim scholars that contested this, or is this just like a majority of Muslim scholars were saying, okay, he's the leader of the Muslim world? Like what's some of the context around this?
So if you use AI and if you just ask AI about, Erdogan and his influence and everything else like that, the AI will just tell you flat out that, yeah, he has the
Well,
biggest influence. Go ahead.
well, yeah. So I think we got to decouple the Shiite Islam from Sunni Islam, right? So I gave a very, very brief introduction with Iranian Shiite Islam, the party of Ali and the Mahdi, the 12th Imam, and the idea of leadership in Shiite Islam. But so Erdogan, though, is he's Sunni, and Turkey, right? And as we explained, Sunni doesn't believe in any of those 12 imams at all. They just focus on the Prophet Muhammad and his companions as on how they try to emulate. But there is a desire within Sunni Islam within some interpretations, to restore the caliphate, right? To restore the empire for the Muslim faithful. Not all Muslims believe in it, but Turkey is very interesting because it's also was the site of the last Muslim
Was
empire, which
the
was the
Ottoman
Ottoman
Empire? Yeah.
Empire. And so there is a lot of rhetoric coming out of Erdogan of restoring the Ottoman Empire, which was historically from Istanbul. And it's a Sunni empire. It's in conflict, right, or in tension with the Iranians and the Shiites, because of the idea of the caliph itself is a Sunni idea. Um, so certainly Erdogan he's trying to do that. This is what the Muslim Brotherhood is all about. This is also what Hamas is all about. Hamas is simply just a branch of the Muslim Brotherhood. Uh, if you even look at the history of the Muslim Brotherhood, which Erdogan is one of the great leaders of, they were developed in 1924, very shortly after the downfall of the Ottoman Empire. And the Muslim Brotherhood got to work right away to try to restore a a religious empire because they had lost it. And so this is one of the dreams, I think, of Erdogan. And also from his worldview, Israel stands in the way of this empire that he's trying to rebuild. And that's why he also backs Hamas so strongly. That's why Hamas is so interesting, because it's a tool of both the Iranians and the Muslim Brotherhood, Sunnis and Shia. They're
Yep.
both trying to use Hamas as a kind of a front load, a vanguard to destroy Israel, which the Sunnis and Shia extremists both want to destroy Israel, but for a little bit different reasons.
Okay.
Okay,
That
So,
ties into right here perfectly
so
because now that's verse 3, okay?
hey, hold on.
Now,
Lowell, we
yeah,
got to catch up on some super chats really fast. Ethan,
yep,
can you
we
catch
got a
us up
few
on
here.
super chats, bro?
Yes, we've got Daniel Johnson. He's a new member, and he also gave a super chat, and he said, "Isn't each dispensation 1,000 years? This dispensation started in the 1800s. Don't we have till the 2800s? Because then comes the 1,000-year reign of Christ. Did I miss something somewhere?" I think some people in the chat were talking to him about that. I would say no, because the dispensations aren't necessarily 1,000 years.
that's right.
Each of the Book of Revelation talks about this,
Seals.
but each of the seals are 1,000 years. But in this case, the purpose of the dispensation of the restoration, or the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, is to prepare a people and to some extent prepare the world for the second coming of Jesus Christ. So we're trying to prepare the kingdom of God so that Jesus can come take his throne and essentially turn us into like an actual literal kingdom. But like, yeah, so we don't have, so the church doesn't have to exist for 1,000 years. We exist in preparation for when Jesus comes back, and then somewhere around from when Jesus comes back plus 1,000 years is the millennial reign of Christ.
Okay, here, take down while reading these super chats, why don't you take down that slide there, Lowell, really fast, just so we can see all your beautiful
Yes.
faces. Next super chat, my man, hit it. Next super chat.
All right. Next is Words of Mormon. He says, "Stop saying Prophet Muhammad. Joseph Smith explained the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy, not a prophet. If you use that phrase again, I'll believe you are a Muslim. Stop already."
Oh, you're gonna be a little disappointed here, Words of Mormon, my man. But the Prophet Muhammad is how he is actually referred to also all over LDS org and by many leaders in our church. In fact,
Yeah,
if you read the statement, God's love for all mankind, right?
wasn't that thing back in like the mid 80s or something?
It was like late 70s, early 80s. They made an official
Yeah.
statement where they basically just said, God has given additional light and knowledge to the rest of the world in preparation for the coming of the fullness of the gospel to all kinds of men, be it, Confucius, be it Buddhists, be it Taoists, the Prophet Muhammad, or, I don't know, I'm probably forgetting another major one there, you know?
But their point was like the light of Christ can reveal truth unto all. I think it actually specifically mentions
But
the light
also
of Christ
prophet. Hold on, there's prophet with a little p and prophet with a big P. Like, if you notice, like, this is super interesting, talking in the Go and Do Travel cruises with Bruce Porter, man, oh, geez. If you have a chance to just talk to Bruce Porter, your mind is going to be absolutely blown. He pointed out that there's no actual church that's ever mentioned in the book of Ether. And there's no mention of the priesthood either. That the brother of Jared was indeed the prophet, because priesthood is not a requirement of being a prophet. And there was no official church ever mentioned in the book of Ether either, that as a prophet, the brother of Jared was venerated and they sought his counsel. But he did not carry, at least according to scripture, the priesthood or establish a church. He was, though, indeed a prophet. So, I mean, even within the contexts of the doctrine of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, one could say the Prophet Muhammad is indeed a prophet without what our version of the priesthood is or our understanding of Jesus Christ. Now,
Cardon, let me jump in really quick. So I would, since I was the one that was I started using the Prophet Muhammad. I personally don't subscribe to Muhammad being a prophet of the Lord in the sense of Moses or the prophet Joseph Smith, but I am going to honor sincere, faithful Muslims that they believe he's a prophet, and I cherish my relationships with my Muslim friends. And I do, like you, I personally reveal Islam as an Abrahamic faith. I think that the challenge is when Islam is a religion, when followers of the religion want to establish empires and destroy and conquer religious minorities like the Jews or the Baha'is or the Druze or any of the other religion, the Armenians, right? So when Islam is used as a tool of empire to conquer, I oppose that. But the beautiful faith of Muslim people who are following the 5 pillars of Islam, I believe that's Abrahamic, and it's a beautiful thing. I think we should learn more about it, and we should dialogue.
you just need
with
more
Muslims
Polish people around, dude. We stopped
Yeah.
Jan Sobieski. Yeah, we stopped that in September 11th, 1074 or whatever it was, right? When was that big battle? It was the reason why actually September 11th was the battle, and it was the reason why, come on, Twin Towers. What was the name of the terrorist? Come on. Osama bin Laden. The reason why Osama bin Laden chose September 11th was because the day that Jan Sobieski stopped the siege of Prague and the Polish winged hussars finally stopped the expansion of the Muslim empire, basically saving the rest of Western Europe. That was Jan Sobieski, the Polish king, that came in with the largest cavalry charge in world history. I think there was like 10,000 cavalry or something like absurd like that, but it was the largest cavalry charge in European history, and that stopped the expansion of what history sometimes called the Muslim hordes, what some called the first great empire, but that stopped him back in the day. So, okay, so Words of Mormon. Look, you know what? There's people that don't believe Russell M. Nelson's a prophet that say, hey, President Nelson or Prophet Nelson, we could throw our Muslim brothers and sisters a bone and call him the Prophet Muhammad. I don't see anything wrong with that. But you can fight me, I guess. He seemed pretty fired up about that.
Okay. He says he sent in another super chat, but he said, I'll take Joseph Smith's definition, not the church office building capitulation I'm hearing. Muhammad is respectful enough. All right, yeah, that works for you. That works for you, man.
I like that he's on board with the church office building capitulation, though. That's my kind of guy.
Yeah.
So anyway, keep reading him.
And then lastly, we get to Kyle. He says, the scriptures say, I wasn't aware of this, so I'll have to go find it, but he says, the scriptures say that the Lord can't come again until we make it a trillion.
Oh, now we're talking.
We got to grow the church coffers, guys. We got to get it to the point where the church investments are worth $1 trillion. We just got to make it happen.
Yeah, I got to tell you,
more tithing.
Yeah, at this point, it's just recreation for me. I'm like, babe, we're not going out on date night. That $150 that we were about to spend, I'm just, movies and dinner, I'm just giving it to the church. I'm just trying to get them. Like, it's so much more fun owning the haters of the church. You know what I'm saying? Like I want to do reverse Sadduceeism. Like, you know how God condemned the people that put money into the coffers and said the widow's mite was the biggest donation that he saw all that day? Like, I think we should be doing the reverse. I think all of like the zealous members, we should just put little collection bins outside on the sidewalks or in the public squares of like our biggest haters, within earshot of our biggest haters. And we should just use silver dollars. Like, we should just use silver dollars and just one by one, just put them in, making lots of noise. And as we do it, just be like, almost made it, one more closer to $1 trillion, just to bother our haters. I think that'd be super funny. But that's just me, and I'm vindictive. But
all right, so let's start raising tithing money outside of the what's his name? The Burger King guy.
Yeah, Apologia Studios. Yeah, James Wyatt.
Outside of Apologia.
That's
we'll
funny.
Start raising tithing out there.
Okay, so my only beef with this, Lowell, my man, is okay. Go put your graph back up, man. Put your graph back up if you don't mind. So my only question about this is, like, I've seen people superimpose this math of Daniel on there to everything from the Russian Empire, predicting that the Russian Empire, the USSR, was going to break up, and that the breaking up of the USSR was a fulfillment of Daniel 4 and Daniel 8. I've also seen people, like you show me, this article, Muslim scholars worldwide declare Erdogan to be the supreme leader of the entire Muslim world. Gosh, I could see a local newspaper in Pennsylvania saying scholars everywhere declare Josh Gailey's dad the prophet of the Bickertonite sect of the church, that he's the rightful heir of all Mormonism, and so on and so forth. Just because there's enough scholars dotting the globe for us to write an article saying scholars worldwide declare X doesn't mean that what those scholars actually think is what's really A, going to happen, or B, what should happen.
Okay, so we got to nail it down. But you're right. We got to have more evidence. So here's the mic drop.
Okay.
Is that's verse 3. I'm saying verse 3 was fulfilled. And that Erdogan became higher than Khomeini. So then that brings up the question, what about verse 4?
Okay.
Okay, so go ahead and
I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him, neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand. But he did according to his will and became great. Okay.
Now, in Daniel chapter 11, verse 3, if you look over there, it talks about that fourth king, that his dominion became great, and he did according to his will. Now over here, we have similar verbiage over here as well. So we're getting a tie-in. But you take a look, since about, get right here. So since August of 2014, um, Erdogan and Ayatollah Khomeini, with ISIS and everything, what have they been doing since that time? They've been pushing to the west and to the north and to the south. Prophecy has been in progress on verse 4 for over a decade. So this is really tightening it up. So okay, we got something here.
So
But
why does this tighten it up?
so it's just tightening up because we can actually see that they've been pushing to the west, north, and south, and not to the east. That's
Yeah, it doesn't
interesting.
say they're pushing eastward.
It doesn't.
And
Just
so like Iran and Turkey, they're not pushing to the east?
nope.
Oh, that is kind of interesting.
It
I'll
is.
I'll, I'll throw something that we should got to think about here is the Syria, right? You had Bashar al-Assad just over a couple months ago was ousted from power. Now he was in Syria. He was really a client or a proxy of Iran. He was allied with Iran, and now he's out of the picture. Um, a more Sunni uh, leader has come in to Syria, and so a lot of the scholarship right now is talking about Turkey increasing its influence in Syria, whereas Iran's influence in Syria has diminished. I think what's happening now also with Hezbollah has been neutered in many ways with the mobile phone attack, the cell phone attack, the beeper attack. The Houthis are being hit right now. Iran is being hit right now. So we actually, I mean, practically speaking, I think we're seeing the diminishment of Iran's influence, and we may see the increase of Turkey's influence, uh, just from a geopolitical point of view.
Okay. So
Yeah.
in one sense, if we're interpreting the two different horns as the two different major schools of Islam, then it's like the
The two
Shiite
kings.
part is starting to fade away while the Sunni part is getting elevated, and Erdogan, at least right now, appears to be like the most dominant leader within the Sunni worldview.
Yeah, the two horns represent the two kings, Kamini and Erdogan. And
Okay, now
and
hold on. If we adopt that interpretation of the prophecy, what's that mean and when? I know
so
you're
let's
used to doing things in a certain order and whatnot, all right,
yeah.
but we got
So
we got to burn through this.
Yeah,
You know
we've
what
got to
I'm
jump
saying?
let's
around and move fast.
so let's look at verse 5 then, because verse 4 has been in the process of fulfillment. So now look at verse 5.
Okay, it says, and I was considering, behold, and a he goat, he came from the west on the face of the whole earth and touched not the ground, and the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. Oh,
Okay, verse
interesting. Okay.
21, the angel gives the interpretation.
Okay, the U.S. has had many presidents, kings. The angel is trying to get Daniel and us to focus on a very specific time. That time is the time when a U.S. president attacks Khomeini and Erdogan.
Look at verse 21.
Okay, and the rough goat is the king of Grecia, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. Okay, so the first king. Okay, so we know that
The
the
king
rough
of
goat.
Grecia.
Yeah, the rough goat is the king of Grecia, and the horn that is between the rough goat's eyes is the first king. The U.S. has had many presidents.
So how do,
So wait. So that would have to be George Washington attacking Iran, though, then, right?
No, it's the first king being referenced in this vision. So the angel is trying to get us to focus in on a very, very specific time. And that specific time is after Khomeini and Erdogan have been pushing to the west, north, and south. It's after Erdogan has become higher than Khomeini. And now they're focusing in on this leader of the U.S., the president of the U.S., which is Trump. And look that the verse 5 that this he comes from the west on the face of the whole earth, touches not the ground, and the goat has a notable horn between his eyes. What's going on right now between Trump and Khamenei? On the west side, you got Iran, and on the west side of Iran, Trump is loading up the battleships, he's loading up the Tomahawk missiles, he's loading up the F 16s, the F 35s, the B 52s, the B 2s, all these things over there to take out Khamenei. This prophecy is shaping up. Verse 5 is shaping up, but look at what happens in verse 6 and 7. Go ahead and read that.
Okay. Okay. 6 and 7. As he came to the ram and ran unto him in the fury of his power, and I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram and brake his two horns. And there was no power in the ram stand before him, but he cast him down on the ground and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. Okay.
So we're talking about Trump prophetically is going to attack Khamenei of Iran and Erdogan of Turkey. And ever since 2016, people go, no, Lowell, no one would ever attack Turkey because they're an ally. Again, I go.
They're the
go
ally
back
that
to-
doesn't act like an ally but enjoys the free protection of NATO.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
okay.
Again, I go back to Isaiah chapter 48. It talks about how the Lord is revealing things that we can't say, oh, yeah, I knew that was coming. But now we have these prophecies that give us tomorrow's headlines.
Okay.
Now the mic drop. Now the mic drop. So this is a very successful attack. You can see from verse 6 and 7. I mean, Trump is just to whomp on these guys and to remove them from power. And then after this, he gets stronger. In verse 8, it talks about, therefore the he goat waxed very great. It's after that event. And when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up four notable ones towards the four winds of heaven. What is that talking about? Look at what the angel gives us for the interpretation, verse 22.
Just
Now
to-
that being broken, whereas four stood up for it, four kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power. We're
So-
talking about prophetically, Trump is going to be removed, broken, and when he is broken, then prophetically, the United States is going to split into four nations.
Whoa. Okay, so hold on. If we are going to steelman your interpretation, you're saying if all of the interpretations of the first four kings are true, and we put them in accordance to the timeline of the kings of Persia, okay, us knowing what Persia is, and we take the symbolic representation of Grecia as the United States, or the West, as it would be called altogether, even Babylon as we hear it in scriptures, that would now set out a timeline in which there would
Event
have to
line.
be a war. There would have to be a war in which the he-goat of Daniel 11 goes to
Eight.
war with both Turkey and Persia, and that the king of that he-goat, or whatever it is, would have to be Donald Trump, which some people think, okay, rah, 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 that's cool. However, there's a backside to this prophecy, which isn't great for the United States, that says it would also end up causing the breakup of the United States into four pieces.
Yes, and here's the bigger mic drop.
Okay.
Look at this here. This is rhyming with 3rd Nephi. Remember how 3rd Nephi is supposed to be kind of like
Kind of like the events leading up to the second coming, right? Like the idea is we study Third Nephi, we can get an idea of what life will be like before Jesus comes back. Yeah.
and look at chapter 6 and 7. You want to read that, Ethan?
Yeah, so when the wicked judges were killing the righteous prophets without permission, the wicked judges were caught and were going to be tried. Oh, now that's interesting. However, the chief judge was murdered and the government collapsed and the people went into tribes. Oh, geez, that's an interesting thing to prophesy of. So yeah, I mean that
So
now we can see that connection. So what you're saying is we can learn from Third Nephi. Corruption will happen. The government. I mean, I've believed this for a while. Eventually, the United States is going to collapse, fall apart. Exactly how that happens, I haven't. I've heard different interpretations of what that looks like, but then this leads up to people coming together in tribes, presumably in the church. We come together to kind of support each other, and then eventually Jesus comes back and establishes Zion as like a political kingdom on the earth.
So I got some
Um,
funny comments here that I'm going to read, and then you can pick up on some of the super chats. We got some members showing up with some hilarious hot sauce in the comments. Uh, the YGDSs, or the Yods, or the Y Gods, I don't know how to pronounce that, says that would work with Morgan's thinking. In the next few years, the U.S. should end up in the same condition that the Nephites were in just before their destruction, split into tribes, at which point Logan Galley responds, Deseret is so back.
yeah.
Which is actually really kind of funny, because Mormons culturally would actually probably do relatively well, considering, in the zombie apocalypse. I've always thought, dude, like, it's going to be Jews and Mormons that come out of this thing. Jews, because they could just like run to the synagogue because they all live within walking distance. You know what I'm saying? And more of them have guns than you think. You know what I'm saying? I have a lot of Jewish buddies down in LA, and more of them have guns than you think, right? And similarly, Mormons, when our earthquake happened here in the 94 earthquake, which before the levees broke in Louisiana was the most costly natural disaster in American history. Within 2 hours, our bishop knew every single member of the ward was accounted for. Within 2 hours, our bishop knew, and this is pre-internet era. This was just through people being able to get on their bikes and run and see. If, by the way, we're talking inactives that had not been seen at church for a decade. We're talking like, the one individual that was baptized 5 years ago and has been an actor for a while. Like literally every single person on the list was accounted for within just a number of hours that you could count on your hand, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, when the crap hits the fan, it's going to be the Jews and the Mormons, bro. Which means, Jason, you're the safest friend I have in the apocalypse. You know what I'm saying? You're the safest friend I have, dude. So the last comment was really funny. Was Kyle then says, Texas is one of the 4 pieces. This is where the Book of Mormon took place. I confess I have not heard of the Texan geographic model of the Book of Mormon.
It's actually the Texlaskan model. We have some people that are working up some papers on it.
Okay. Don't know where the narrow neck of land would be on that one, but we'll run with it. We'll run with it, So okay. Ethan, hit us up with super chats, and then we'll pepper Lowell with more questions.
So Brad, he said Wayne May just said on Zion Media that in the Heartland model and some archaeological evidence that the Jaredites may have been black or a mix of the sons of Ham. Get him on to talk about it. That could be interesting. Wayne May is a cool guy. And then Words of Mormon once again said, fast forward through all this boring stuff when Elder Gong and Elder Uchtdorf are being dragged through the streets of Israel by Islamic terrorists. Then you need to repent and worry, not before. I'll say one more thing towards that. I think there's a reason why the leaders of the church have been working so hard to befriend specific Muslim people. I think there's going to be a point when Jesus comes back, and when there's a lot of good people who are Muslim, who are in our worldview, when Jesus comes back, he's going to say, by the way, this church, I restored them to bring back this stuff. They had their problems, but I'm taking over, and I want you to come join underneath my covenants. And people around the world, good people everywhere from all faith backgrounds, are going to come here. And so I think it's important that we have amicable relationships with people of every faith, because it'll make it easier for us to reach out to them and invite them to join the kingdom of God after the second coming. It's kind of a wild thing to say, and so almost like fantastical, but we believe the second coming is going to happen. I think that's something that you remember that guy who went on 60 Minutes to do a rant about the church's finances?
Yeah. The guy
Yeah,
that also wrote
yeah.
the book with the alternative method of how the Book of Mormon came true, and it was like the Solomon Spaulding script on steroids.
Yeah, exactly. So the
Okay.
reason I bring that guy up is I remember in that interview, there was one point where they're interviewing him. He's like, "Yeah, I asked my boss like what the point was of all this, and he said to prepare for the second coming." And then the guy looks at the 60 Minutes interviewer. He's like, "They actually believe that," and they're like, "Yeah." Yeah, we do. We actually believe the second coming's gonna happen.
Yeah.
We're not gonna say exactly when, but we actually believe it's gonna happen, and
Yeah,
we actually believe we should be ready for it.
Joke's gonna be on you, bro.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah. When everything's falling apart, you're gonna return back to your prepper member friends and be like, "Hey, I'm sorry, I want to repent now. Can you give me some of that food storage?"
Yeah.
Uh,
Let me interject real quick with like what I think a Jewish perspective of this is. I mean, I could speak out of both sides of my mouth as a Latter-day Saint or as a Jew, but I think a Jewish perspective is that you don't want the world to disintegrate and just unravel, right? Obviously, that's really bad for the Jews. So I think both the Bible and the Book of Mormon, but it's really interesting that what we've been talking about here is the Lord doesn't want tribalism and everything like a government to break down. There'd be anarchy. Everybody just goes into tribes and warlords, gang lords. But also, he doesn't want empires. You know, we were talking about empires and conquering and slaughtering people and taking over those who are weaker than you and minorities. But I think the Lord, what I get from the Bible and the Book of Mormon is the Lord actually wants us to invest in a strong, stable nation. And so, I think, I mean, we have to be warned of these things, but for me personally, I'm still committed to the United States, being one nation under God. I'm still committed to Israel being one nation under God, and also other countries as well. I think, we could go a lot deeper in like the Tower of Babel and what all that means, and what I think from a political point of view, the scriptures are trying to aim us toward. But I think as Latter-day Saints, we should actually be more aggressive, more take more initiative, take more leadership. That we should shape the societies, shape our nations in a way that is positive. So actually, I push against the kind of passive, like let's just let the world fall apart. I think if we're truly our Israel, what I understand Israel both as a Jew and as a Latter-day Saint to mean is that we take an active role. We do Joseph stuff, right? We keep, Joseph kept Egypt from like falling apart, right? So I would actually say this is a call for us to take more responsibility for our national destiny.
oh yeah,
Absolutely. I can't agree
100%.
more. Yeah, because let me just share my screen real quick and I'll bring up a couple of points here. Um, we'll get this
Well,
right
because
over
this
here.
this gets into like how I know one of the things that Lowell likes to talk about is how if the country is going to be split into four different nations, if we think that's what Scripture's prophesying, shouldn't we be proactive? And honestly, I'm a pretty staunch America guy, right? I'm wearing an America hat right now. I have been involved in politics since a young age. I do everything I can to protect this country because I think that it's supposed to stand for something great, right? Um, and so we should do all that we can to support that. But if prophecy works out in the way, and if the rest of the world works out in the way that things do go south on a national level, um, I would hope that as Latter-day Saints, as faithful people in general, we'd be in positions to try to um, salvage what is good, if that makes sense. And so I know Lowell will talk a little bit about that too, and I think we're getting pretty close probably to where we want to end the live stream, so we'll want to try to um probably try to summarize some stuff.
This is
But
where we spook all the
yes.
boomers. What will happen to
Yes.
Social Security, Medicare, prescription drugs, welfare? And the list goes on, and you'll notice it goes on with everything except for anything that has to do with the welfare of their children or future generations, because they're the most godless, blood-sucking, selfish generation the world has ever met. And they're so used to everybody bending over backwards to make sure their programs work right. You know what I'm saying? But at least we can throw in an invest in gold ad. After we scare them, we get them, invest in gold, right?
Where's Austin Falter? We need him to jump on the call.
Yeah,
and
for real.
Reset the calendar, the days without Cardon
Just reset
going
it,
on a boomerang.
So, okay. So what states will be part of the 4 countries? Hit that and let's go. After that, we'll have to go. I am interested to see what you think, what states will go where. Did you see the graph that the ex-Russian spy made when he suspected that the U.S. would divide up into 7 countries based off of the 7 unique American cultures?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've seen that.
I'll see if I can't pull it up, and then I'll share my screen too. But Lowell, hit us. Take her home, baby. Take her home.
Yeah. So, you just take a look at, well, if we don't have a military ready, if we don't have a founding document ready, if we don't have a monetary system ready, so the angel doesn't say what the 4 nations are going to be. I'm guessing we could have a West Coast socialistic country, a East Coast socialistic country. We could have the Bible Belt going over to Florida, and then we could have the Rocky Mountains. I'd like to see the Rocky Mountains going over into Missouri and up into Illinois, Nauvoo area. But the point is that these are prophecies, and we can see that how verse 2 in Daniel chapter 11, verse 2, and now we got verse 3 has been in progress for about a decade, and now we're getting close to Daniel chapter 11, verse 4, and then in Daniel chapter 8 we can see how verse 3 has been fulfilled, how verse 4 has been in the process of fulfillment, and now here we are doing the show today. And it is it's a time in which we can see things shaping up to where Trump could go over and attack Iran. And now we got to keep an eye out for Turkey. What is Erdogan going to do to cross the red line, Trump's red line, to where Trump is going to want to take him out as well? This is fascinating times, but we don't have to sit back and just wait and watch it happen. As you guys have been talking about, we can be proactive. And here's the beautiful thing, is that this is from the book of Daniel. We got 2 billion Christians out there that believe in the book of Daniel. And so we can get them watching and looking at this information, and we can get those of us in the United States to start taking action, so that we are prepared for when it splits up into 4 nations. We're not going to have it all I want at least 2 of the 4 nations, the Bible Belt and the Rocky Mountains, to be ready. We're the Christians.
Hey,
we got this.
Well, I got good news and I got bad news. You'll be able to see this, Ethan. And you know what? Maybe I'll see if I can share my screen now, so you guys can all see it.
I was gonna say I'd love to make the state of Deseret come back. There's actually several people in the chat that have been like, "Bring it back."
Yeah, bring it
which,
back.
Like, as long as they're Desnats, that's or not Desnats, that's great.
Yeah. Well,
But,
dude, check this out. So do you see what's on my screen right now?
No.
Yeah, dude, I found it. So there's good news and there's bad news here, Lowell. I was incorrect. It was not 7. It was actually, it looks like it is indeed 4. And yeah, here it goes.
I don't want to be with California.
Yeah. So
Cardon.
there's good news and there's bad news here, ladies and gentlemen. The good news and the bad news is the following: that basically, professor, I don't remember I didn't see his name, but apparently this Russian professor analyzed the cultures of the United States of America and figured out what the dominant cultures would be and how we would settle if we were divided. And sure enough, you were right. It would be called the California Republic on the West, that would include Arizona, Utah, Nevada, Idaho, Oregon, and Washington, which I'm sure makes the people in Seattle, the people in Portland, and the people in Los Angeles and San Francisco very happy. It probably makes the people in Reno and in Phoenix and the suburbs of Salt Lake City and Idaho very unhappy. But then there would be so we'd be able to keep. I think the liberals would let us keep BYU. In the Midwest,
only as long as we start doing gay marriages at BYU. That would be the requirement.
No.
So
As a sideshow, they'd let us stay as a sideshow because our church office building would beta cuck itself, however it needed to.
No, they would put us into servitude and under ridiculous
we would just stop doing
taxes
marriages and we'd only do temple ceilings, and it would be this obscure religious ritual.
Yeah,
that
I guess
only,
it would be something kind of like Europe has. Yeah.
that only Mormons do. We'd be able to keep BYU Idaho because they have a useful medical school. You know what I'm saying? That's what would happen. I'd actually be more worried about the Midwest here, which he called the Central North American Republic, and it would be part of Canada or under Canadian influence. The Missourians would get back. They'd kick out all the Mormons. Those Midwestern Protestants want nothing to do with the Empire of the West, and they'd slaughter us all
Which is
there.
why we've got two choices here, right? But card sharing is the bad option. This is if we're wicked, if we're slothful, if we don't get involved, like Jason is saying that like we've got to get involved, or get involved. And if this happens, maybe we can bring back Deseret, right? Who knows?
Yeah, and
but
look,
the point is, don't sit around, do nothing, and then get frustrated when the world goes away that you don't want it to go.
Yeah, and the northeastern folks, they're all Catholic up there. Catholics and Mormons, they get along. The only dude that wants to burn our books is Pints with Aquinas, and he's in Ohio, so he'd be escaping all the Protestants. You know what I'm saying? He'd be on the run with us. He'd make up for that.
Either that or he would get conquered by Canada, one of the two.
Yeah, and then we got the South, and the South is just going to South. So anyway,
see, I will say one reason why I'm skeptical about that map is they put South Carolina and Tennessee with the Northeast, and anybody from that area knows that's not going to happen. They're going with the Bible Belt. They will refuse to put themselves underneath the foot of the Yankees. That is not going to happen.
So you don't
think? Let me share this with you. I think that this, I've been at this for a long time. I've given a lot of thought to it. And because we haven't even gotten into the 210 prophetic points that I've put together. And back in 2013, I showed from 1925 to 2013, we had 15 prophetic points that had happened. Now we're up to number 26. And when Trump launches that attack, it's going to be number 27. By the end of this year, we could be up to number 38. And so this is a very, very significant time that we can tap the shoulders of everyone, no matter what religion or whatever, and go, watch these prophecies happen. And because it's out of the Bible, then we could have a lot of Christians that come on board with the more correct interpretation about the succession of 8 kings and where we are in them. And here's the deal, is that I feel like there's going to be a sifting that goes on around the nation and around the world. And what that sifting is working up towards the mark of the beast. Now, with the Doctrine and Covenants, we can nail that down to around 2033. Is when that prophecy gets.
You're committing to the bit. 2033, huh?
So this is a the poster, the chart that I put together, it's not a timeline, and I only have like one time on there, and that is 2033. And April 17th, 2033 is what I and I love to put forth that hypothesis. However, I do believe that with this information, and as more and more Christians see prophetic point number 28, 30, 35, 40, that all these getting fulfilled, there's going to be a flock of people that come on board with this interpretation. And and we're working up towards the six seal event. We're working up to the mark of the beast, and and as they come to grips with that, there's going to be two societies, is what I see around the world. Society A is rather long, but Society A is for those who love Heavenly Father, Jesus, and the Holy Ghost, and or the Constitution of liberty that protects our freedom, and a more honest monetary system like the gold standard by now.
Yeah.
That's Society A. Society B is going to be for those who are for socialism, communism, New World Order, which all leads up to the mark of the beast that we're commanded not to be part of. And
Okay.
that's going to set the dividing line.
Okay, I can tell that we are going to have to get our boy Lowell back, because that now we're getting into fun stuff. The
Yeah.
mark of the beast, you know what I'm saying? So it's not going to be a K-pop tattoo. No, that's what you're saying. It's not going to be a K-pop tattoo. Okay, cool. Well, Lowell, I already got people in the chat here. They're asking where they can get your list, where they can see your graphs. You've made an impression here. There's some people that want to read your stuff. How can people find you and your stuff, my man? Just wait around for Thanksgiving. Every family has their own version of Lowell. You know what I'm saying? He's usually the guy that walks in with the red hat that says, "Make America Great Again," and then says, "I told you so. I told you so." You know, and then
And he was right.
and he was right. So
he was right.
if you can't wait until Thanksgiving to see that uncle, you know what I'm saying? Where can people find you, Lowell? Where can they find your stuff, bro?
Yeah, did that come up on the screen there?
Mhm.
So-
No. Are you crazy?
So
Oh,
Yeah, you're crazy. No, I'm not. Yes. What's your website, dog? What's your website?
yeah, I got two websites. One is called Bible Science Happening. That's for people in general. A subset of that website is saintsbrightfuture.com. And so you can go to
saintsbrightfuture.com. Okay, awesome. Sick. So anyway, this has been an absolute ton of fun. We're going to have to jam here, unfortunately, because we're already 11 minutes into overtime. We got about 60 seconds left. If you have any questions for Lowell, give us a jingle. Or not give us a jingle, give us a super chat, and we'll try and read them on our way out. This has been a ton of fun, though. Jason, what about you? Where can people find you, my man? You got a cool book and everything, and you seem to have some deep insights, bro.
Yeah, if you're interested, I've got a fun book, The Burning Book, a Jewish Mormon memoir. It's on Amazon. We won the 2022 Association for Mormon Letters Award in Creative Nonfiction. Yeah, The Burning Book, a Jewish Mormon memoir.
Yeah, rock on. Awesome. And
All right.
Ethan, he just makes baby after baby, multiplying and replenishing the earth, starting his own little empire, you know. And
Yep, we got another one coming in a few weeks, probably.
yeah, and he's the big brains behind the Word Radio video game, which is going to have some really, really cool, interesting announcements
Yeah.
coming up soon.
Yeah,
If
we'll
you-
have to record some videos on that because we got some awesome stuff coming up there.
Yeah, if you guys would like to contribute to the channel, please make sure that you check us out on Zelle. If you guys would also like to help out on Venmo, we're available there. We also have about 10 more War in Heaven veteran hats that are available, along with their corresponding Ward Radio shirts. Also, we have a pretty robust Amazon.com wish list. M. Smith has just been giving us all kinds of sick and cool gifts here. He fulfilled one of our orders on the Amazon wish list, helping fix one of our internet routers here. And he said, when Cardon declares something wild or Kwaku gets righteously riled, at least now you'll be in pure cotton glee, stylishly faithful and styled from M. Smith. He also purchased some Gildan heavyweight shirts, which are often the go-to shirt for people that don't have shirts that match the studio. When we have guests come in, we give them a Gildan heavyweight T-shirt as a costume change. I oftentimes wear them while hosting some of our morning shows as well. So thank you very much, M. Smith, for giving us that. You guys stick around after we do the outro here. Other than that, guys, big shout out to Kyle, to the Y Gods, to Greg Fessia, Grizzly Blue. I saw a bunch of our mods here in the chat today. Thank you, Words of Mormon, Brad Davis, and Kyle for your super chats, along with Daniel Johnson. Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter, folks, on the wardradio.com website. And if you haven't joined our channel yet, we got some really cool videos that are coming out. Now is a good time to join the channel. You will get early access to many of our videos. Other than that, it's been real and it's been fun, and it's been real fun for this and more. Please make sure you guys check us out at wardradio.com.
I built a rocket in my basement. I'm gonna fly it to the moon. This supersonic is amazing.